Yo, what's good, everyone? Hoping you're having a good day here. Just got done with the latest playtest of the new version of Warp Drive, and tested out all the new abilities and ideas. And surprisingly, most of everything was very well received. There was one big discrepancy, which is you roll dice essentially and assign them to your board, like you can see over here on Johnny's and Riley's board. But the inconsistency of how different the dice rolls were from player to player. For example, Kevin, who you can't see, he's a little lower on the screen. He consistently rolled the worst out of everyone, and I think Riley rolled second worst out of all of them, and Calvin consistently was like the best or second best. Not every round, but majority of the time he was. So he built up a nice lead with that, and then he focused on just the pure speed essentially. For he was playing Zella, and then I also made a design error with the ability that I gave her, made her too strong as well when she had a lead. That it Calvin just cruised basically to victory. But testing out that new allocation system went really well. We learned a lot. We already came up with uh, the best solution basically. We're just going to roll three. There's three dice here in the center, and we're just going to roll the three dice, and everyone gets those same values, but they get to decide how they place them on their own board. So it will create more of a chaotic center where the gaps aren't as big as they were tonight, because the gaps were pretty significant tonight, from all four of them. It was really strange. They were like at one point, one each player was in a different quadrant. One was in green, one red, one purple, one blue, which is the just the weirdest way how it happened, but it did happen. But by the end of it, like they were closer together, but Calvin was really far ahead up here. So, but that allocation system, just fixing that small thing where everyone just has the same values, and then they get to decide where they place it. So it depends on what position they're in, who's around them, kind of thing. It may determine how they spend their points, um, which will be really fun to see the next time. And then the two traits that we brought into the game, one, Ram was an old mechanic, but I always had a problem with it taking too much time. The new system with it went really well. The only problem was that since we did have such a big gap between all the players, we did not get to Ram as often as I had hoped, but it still went really well. They liked the system where they got the dash forward, hit their opponent, and then move the opponent basically one space backwards. And then the cow one was really fun to see. You can see all the cows on the actual board. Those are little tile chips essentially. You can see here for Riley and Johnny, they have their little piles of them. So the whole board starts with no cows on it, but at the end of every turn, everyone gets to throw one cow, and it depends on how many points they've spent into the actual trait will determine um, how they actually how far they can throw it. I'm sorry. So a one space you can throw it one space. Six spaces, a six trait you can throw it six spaces, and then if it hits someone, they move back a space. And then if they go into the Calstroid, they have to spend two movement to get out of it, unless they invested six into Powerful. You can see it's upside down, but you can see that Johnny did spend that. So now it costs 0 to get out of it. So the first lap there's no cows, but the second lap you start catching up a lot because you're getting a lot of free movement, which is really nice. So when you stack them together like this, it helps you on that second lap tremendously. It was really cool. Johnny and Kevin both got theirs to 6, and they started really moving around fast on the second lap. It was pretty cool to see. And they all thought that it was fun to play. It was a fun mechanic to do because you're throwing a cow, which how many games do you get to throw a cow in space? None. And it wasn't like overpowerful or anything like that. It just felt fun. So it was cool. And then the balance of your first lap, since there's no cows in play, you building up the cow were full trait was the bad end of it. which the balancing part is the second lap where you catch up drastically once you if you did spend all the way up to 6. So, and then the new attack system that we did was no additional rolling, just whatever you have in your trait plus any dice you spent in accuracy or maneuver. Whoever has the highest of the accuracy versus maneuver wins. If it's a tie, accuracy on the offense always wins. So it's just to kind of push that narrative of wanting to attack more. But unfortunately, that one design fault that I had, where everyone rolled their own dice and allocated them on their board, it there was far less attacking this version than there will be in the next one, which I'm really excited to see. But um, we're also going to buff RAM to 6 because it's only 1 through 4 currently, because the current ability on it basically will let you dash a second time after you dash forward once and hit someone. If someone else is now in your range, you get to dash a second time. So I think we're gonna play test it with 6 and that same ability just to see how it actually feels. And then I may just have to nerf the ability, which is fine. I'd rather test it just at 6 instead of nerfing the ability, but giving the trait a value of 6 so you can dash further. Um, the event cards also, the timing of them, they just didn't feel like they worked as much this time, but it's not something we're gonna get rid of because Calvin's the one that brought up that point, which he's completely right. They didn't really feel like they did much, but that same first problem impacted so many other things like trickle down effect that if we fix that first thing, then the events will actually mean more, which is cool. So hopefully that just the fixing the 3 dice that you get that are rolled and you get to put them on your board will fix a lot of issues. So everyone has the same 3 dice values. So if there's a 5, 4, and a 2, everyone gets to place the 5, 4, and 2 on their board. So example, John, I said that because Johnny's is a 5, 4, and 2, and everyone would get the same values, but they can spend it in different traits that they want to, depending on how they think their turn's going to go. So, and then the other part of the attacking system I didn't mention was the damage. This was this part was liked, but also unliked. The thing they liked was the mechanic of the attacking and taking damage. It's good to see it. But what it currently was for tonight was when you take damage, you can repair your ship by losing, basically just removing one of your dice. So that just felt really punishing because no one wanted to. The reason why it felt really punishing is no one wanted to get the 3 damage, because when you got the 3 damage, you lost all of your dice. So it was honestly too strong of a nerf essentially. So now what we're going to do is there's no repairing phase anymore, and now just when you get the 3 damage, you lose your highest dice that you roll. So you still get to keep 2 at least. But I'm also going to put into, I think, and try this. When you land an attack, a weapons attack, you get to choose if you repair one from your ship or you deal 1 damage to their ship. So it's kind of like an energy blast where you can take their energy and like repair your ship, or you blast them and deal damage to their ship. So I think that'll be a good change there. I already know that getting rid of the part where you can lose all 3 of your dice, like all 4 of them tonight thought that was way too brutal, and they were 100% right. We never even had that happen because people were so afraid of that as soon as they had 1 damage, they would remove the damage on the next turn, which they're smart for doing because it was way too strong at damage, at 3 damage. So um, other noticeable things we'll do. This one's not even really noticeable, but Johnny mentioned, and he's probably right, is the I changed the shit cards enough that they're in a really good place now. They all commented and said that they actually it felt balanced It didn't feel too bad getting hit with it, and it's also rewarding enough for the other person to play the cards. But there's only 8 of them total in the whole pile of engineering cards, and there's like 132 cards right now. So we're probably going to bump them up to like 12 or 16 total, so that there is more frequency of seeing them, because it was widely liked to see that pop up, which I thought was a cool thing to hear, because that was something I've reworked, I think, 3 times. This is the 4th version of it, and it feels really good. So, um, other thing to note, I have to fix Zella's ability. I made it way too good. Um, I think that's it. Yep, that's all the changes for this game. And then I'm happy to report that I actually have made a few other games. I'm not going to go into full details on them yet. I'll make own separate videos. The first game that I'm genuinely excited about. This is going to look really confusing, but I've been working on a game called Pillars of Magic longer than Warp Drive, but I took a long time away from working on Pillars because I started focusing on Warp Drive so much. But it was a like kind of Magic the Gathering game originally, and it's evolved into this recently, where it is a movement prediction fighting game, which I am very excited to test out. I'm going to get to show Johnny and Riley on Tuesday, which I'm really pumped to do, to basically show it off and see how they like it. Maybe we'll play like a round or two just so they can give me some feedback. But it's essentially you have you're going to be drafting 6 spells. I won't do the full detail because, like I mentioned, I'll make another thing for it. And then you put them in here. So these are their power levels, but the power levels are mainly just for tiebreakers. So if my spell actually hits you, but yours also hits me, whoever has the higher value will actually win that battle, and then the person that lost, whatever the spell that they lost with, gets removed. They lose that spell. So the cool thing about this is to make the spells that you put in value 1, 2, or 3 to actually still be really valuable. If I attack you with a power level 1 spell and I hit, and you attack me with a power level 6 spell or anything higher than a 1, but you miss, I take out whatever spell you cast. So it's a very big, like, the movement prediction part of it is really going to be interesting, because basically if you have a spell like this, just just real quick, what it means is that if this is your hero here, this is a ranged attack. So you can see the dark red bars mean you cannot attack there. So this means the first hex next to your hero in these 3 things, you cannot make attack there, but the next 2 you can. So for example, I'll just take these 2 right here. If this was the actual, I'll just bring it up here so we can look at it. If this was the actual spell I had for Silvala, whenever we're done with all of the movements and stuff, because you actually play a card that lets you move you'll get to choose one of 2 spaces. You get to choose. I'll just show you one of them. So like this one, if you played this one, you would either move green or purple. So what that means is how your champion is facing. Here's your just little diagram. Purple is this way, and then green is this way. So you're trying to predict where they're going to move and try to line up your abilities. So if this is how we both moved, and this is the spell that I had queued up, I can use the red one for my attack, and it would be I cannot attack this space because of the dark red, but then the light red here, I actually hit him. So if he chose to attack, but he predicted I went here or here instead, and he misses, then I get to take out whatever spell that he basically cast, and then whatever this was, I just flip it over, and now it goes on a cooldown, which will be 3 turns. So now I have to choose between the other spells that I have ready. So it's a they all have different attack like ranges. So like these are the three best melee attacks. So you can see the opposite of that one, how this one had the first line is dark red. You can see the second and third line on all of these is red, meaning you cannot make a range attack with this. This is only a melee attack, but this one is the best melee attack because it can attack all six edges around your hero. And not all of them are like that. Most of them have this. They have four sections, so there's two missing essentially. So this one is also really good because it at least covers like an entire arc. And same with this one. But these ones are kind of spread out and different. So that's why it's a movement prediction. I think it's going to be really fun um, trying all this, trying all these things out. I may remove the cooldown part of this. I don't know yet. I I I think the cooldown will stay because then it makes, paying attention to what your opponent has even more impactful. So you can say, okay, I know he can't he both of his spells that have the red section are on cooldown. So if I were to move here now, I know that the red one is not an option for whoever had Savala. So it's going to be a cool little experiment on the movement prediction to see how well people like it, because there is going to be a decent amount of turns where one player misses or two player misses, so that neither one of them hit their attack. So that's the part of the feedback that I really need to get, is just figuring out how often we actually will miss on our attacks. Um, but yeah, that's what playtesting will do. So that's the first game. I could have went, like I said, I'll make a video specifically for this and show you it in full details. But then I have a wrestling game called the Main Event, where you can see it's just a 3x3 ring. So it's going to be very fast and chaotic, but it is also kind of a prediction kind of system with your cards. So basically everyone has their own finisher, but they don't get to put the finisher into their deck. This is a deck building game, sorry. So they don't get to put the finisher in their deck until they've dealt 7 points of stamina damage essentially. So these are just proxy cards, obviously, but this is stamina damage. So this is what you gain, and then if you're the one who wins the card versus card or the move versus move thing, then this is what you do to them. This is 3 body damage to them, and it deals 2 stamina damage to them. And the thing that's going to be really interesting to see how people like is they all have this indicator, meaning this is how you can target with this specific move, essentially. So this is just meaning you can perform this attack from any of the corners. Basically, the yellow box means you have to be in that's a box relative to that box. So any of the corners. And then whenever you're in a different corner, the same thing will happen. The far three you won't be able to attack. So if you're in this, it's just like this. All the blues you can target. If you're in this one, then these three would be red, and you could target all the other ones. And then it comes down to it's a prediction game as well. So like people will be playing their cards face down like this. So we'll just do this for an example really fast. So this is how they predict it. But since he's first, he gets to move and attack who he wants. So if you're playing a game that has multiple opponents, not just two people, you don't the person in first has the advantage because he at least gets to move and attack who he wants to with his card that's here. If it's 1 versus 1, then it's going to be a lot more, predicting, because this person's card, whenever I attacked him, this guy's card has to qualify to even be able to fight. So if he had to move before this would work, which this is just a running attack, so it's basically all lines, including diagonal. This card you'll be able to attack. So as long as they're in a straight line from your character when you attack. So for example, this one is just showing middle can grapple all these. If the green box was in the left, then he could attack anyone in these three. So a lot of these will be able to fight each other. So if this guy was standing in the middle, then he could attack everyone. So I instead of showing what the middle meant, the middle was the one that's the easiest to attack everything essentially. I'm showing it the next thing that gives you the most targetable areas basically. So if these were flipped over, it's the three technician skill. So this is a skill of 3, and then this is a showman skill of 2. So it's a move set. This is technician move set for the DDT, and this is a showman running knee essentially. And then there's counters though. So the counters will come into play essentially. So like yeah, he played this card here, so he actually gains a bonus versus showman cards. So he would actually have a skill of 4, and he gets a plus versus the dirty fighter. So it would be a 4 versus a 2. So this card would hit. This guy would the guy on the right here would take 1 head damage and lose 1 stamina. So then you just adjust the stuff, and then you can go through. Basically, everyone starts with one of each of these pin cards. You would put them in your own pile like this, and then whenever you want to pin someone, it's basically you flip these over and you always draw 3. You're gonna or you not draw. You're gonna play the top 3 and whatever they are. So say I had this, only had 3 cards. I can't pin them because I know I have 2 pins and 1 kick out in here. So the 2 pins would count towards how I pin them, but then he gets to flip over 3 cards as well, and it wouldn't work out. But as the game goes on, every time you've changed um, stamina 3 times, so that means dealing stamina damage or gaining stamina. There are cards where you actually gain stamina every 3. Then you get to draw 1 more of each of these. So, depending on, you could be having a really good defensive game where you're gaining a lot of stamina. So that means you're drawing these still. But if you're dealing damage, then you'll still get to draw these. That's something that may change or not. But then the idea will be basically once you get enough of the cards, like you'll be able to, you always draw 3, and then the difference of your stamina you get to draw more. So say I had just say I had a 20, I guess, and then this guy has a 15. So I would actually get to draw um the 3 plus 2 more. So I would get to draw 5 total cards to try to pin this guy. So that's 2 pin count. So that's my 5. So I had a 3 pin count though. So if he somehow only drew his pin count ones and not the kick out, then I would actually pin him and eliminate him. So it'll be an interesting system to teach. Mainly, this is going to be the hardest part to teach. But once people get it, I think it'll be pretty cool because it's a deck builder. So there's going to be a market of actual cards or moves that people basically will get to take and put into their deck so that they can grow their deck stronger. And there's different like special cards in the game. There's combo cards too. If I played this card and the person I wrestled, I won that first one, no matter what, now I get to play 1 card from my hand for free. So say this was in my hand, I could play this now, and they don't get to defend versus this one. So then they would take 2 leg damage from this, 1 from this, 1 from this, and then 2 stamina damage here. And then I would also gain this 1 fan favorite, which is one of the abilities here. So after you get 2 of them, you gain a stamina. So it's going to be a pretty cool little game. Hopefully the movement prediction and these targeted move sets won't be too confusing, but this is just going to be the first test of it, so I expect there to be plenty of changes. I just think it's going to be a pretty fun idea to try. So, and then the last game I've been working on and off for a little while is the sheep game. where it's a dream and nightmare game. You can see we have just some very base model artwork done so far. Um, but it's ready to roll, which is I'm excited about. These are the actual nightmare sheeps here. But it's a game where you're trying to escape your dream, essentially your dream and nightmare, because the sheeps that you've all like people have always counted to kind of meditate and fall asleep, they've come aware that you've like imprisoned them in that dream state, essentially jumping a fence forever and ever, that they turn evil and they come try to kill you in your own dream. So one person, the thing I like the most is the very first part of this is basically at the very beginning of the turn, the amount of players there are, that's how many of these cards will keep. This is a 3 to 6 player game. And then if say there's only 4 players, I would remove 2 of the dream cards. So you only do this. And basically what it is there everyone will just they'll draw one card blindly. They don't know what it is. And then they get to um uh, they'll then get to see I forgot I don't have it on. They'll see if they're a dreamer or the sheep. If they're a sheep, that means they're trying to basically trying to guess the same cards that the other players are playing here. And if they do, then they catch the player and they lose some of their what's called perceived reality, essentially. This is just a generic board, but they'll lose this. Once they get all zeros down here, they die and permanently become a sheep. So there's 4 different sections. Basically, I guess I should have it the other way first. So there's double sided. You can see there's a light side and then a dark side. The dark side is the nightmare version. So the very first thing of every turn, the reason why this dice is here is you actually roll this dice. So whatever it lands on, those all become nightmares. So there's 4. Just consider that this is just one of the dreams. All 4 of these sections will have that. So all of the 4s will turn into nightmares. So if you get caught, that means the punishment is doubled, and there is nothing that you gain from it if you are successful, essentially. So it's gonna be a fun little thing. I guess I can just build out the board really fast so you can just see what that looks like too with the whole spread. But it's gonna be fun. Everyone, secretly hunting. You don't know who's a sheep or anything like that. It's gonna be a lot of fun on with like the table talk of it as well. And the thing I really like about this design of this game, at least, is you'll see how there is only numbers 1 through 5. So there's always going to be some cards left over. But when this is always the first dream that you go to, then this is the second, and this is the third, and this is the fourth. So what happens is when you play, I'll just go grab the space scientist card so I can show you. So in this first dream state, if I decided, you get to see all 4 of the dreams spread out like this to start. So if I decided in the first dream state to play my 5, that means for the remaining 3 dreams, I cannot play a 5. So now my number of guesses is limited. So it's going to be really fun as the sheep or as the people trying to avoid the sheep, trying to figure out the best order to do this. Because by the time that you get down, like say we play a 4 here, and then this 3 can't be played in this thing, so I can't play it there. And then there's 3 1s here, so it's there's only 3 guesses, but I only have 2 guesses because I've already played the 4 and there's no 3. So I would play 2, and then I can't use the 1 here. So if I were the sheep, knowing this 5 4 2, there's no 1 here, I know that this player has to play the 3 here so I can guess the 3. So that's why like in these earlier things you would probably want to guess a different number earlier so you could have more options later in the actual rounds. So that's why it's going to be fun, because it's just a lot of it's a lot of the psychology of like what is this person thinking? How are they going to play this? But everyone's going to think differently too. It's going to be a lot of fun because there's going to be a lot of table talk and banter that's just going to be fun to be a part of, which is cool. So, and then on top of all that, the actual sheep every round, they have whoever is the sheep. Once all this is down, then everyone's going to play an action card, which is what these are. So basically, you would play an action card with your card. You don't have to because you only get so many of them. But this one, this is perfect. This one says you transform into a sheep, and this can only be played by a dreamer. You can tell that by the blue clouds. And then the person to your right secretly becomes a sheep, but they don't know it. They don't know they're a sheep essentially the entire turn until we get to the reveal part of the round, which is really fun. So there's a lot of good table talk moments in this game. I think is going to be very enjoyable, especially when you play this game with 6 people. It's going to be a blast because your whole point, I didn't even get to this yet, is you're trying to collect one set of 3 items, and I'll show you basically. So you can see these all say 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 1 of 3, but the color of the words means that they're in a different item set. So this is another one as well. So you can see these are 2 green. These actually go together. So if I had both of these items, I just need to find the last one, which is the 3 of 3, which is the keys to the truck essentially. So this is the farmer's thing. So then like this is a brand new one. So there's going to be trading allowed, but no one's allowed to see what items you have essentially. You just have to tell them I have this card, who's willing to trade me, but you're allowed to lie and bluff and stuff like that. So when you trade, you're hoping they give you something um uh that you wanted, and you can kind of screw them over. But I mean, it depends on, how late it is. You don't want to make enemies right away kind of thing, because then they'll just be hunting for you and stuff, which is really fun. So it's a cool little system. So this is like the full 3 here. This is the first thing that's neat is the squirrel suit for skydiving, then a parachute to go with it, and then the actual airplane that you're going to jump out of the nightmare basically. So you got to collect these. You got to collect one set, and then you have to say, "I want to wake up." And what happens then is basically that person that said, "I want to wake up," on the next turn, they take all 30 of these cards, and they're going to actually they'll take all of them basically and do. I'll show you here real fast. They build the actual dreams by their full colors. So this actually goes here. Oh, the three's right there. Just missing the one. So they would take 4. How am I missing the one? Um, they would take the 4 that they want. So nobody knows which actual dream they're trying to escape from. So they would have they would pick 4 of the 6 dreams. So there's 6 colors, and they would put them out there with one of them being the one that they have their item set for. So for example, let me see if I can just find the purple. Yeah, perfect. So if I had these three purple items, that means I can escape from this purple one. But me, I would put the purple and then 3 other dreams, so they don't know which one I'm trying to actually escape from. So all you have to do in that round is not die by having your psychosis go to zeros, or just successfully not get caught in the nightmare you're trying to escape from, essentially. So, and also, yeah, the for the escape, all of the cards will turn into nightmare cards. So the entire board will be red basically when someone says I want to wake up. So it's going to be a fun little um, game because it's just there's so many different things you can do to interact and mess with other people, and then the fact that you're getting to hunt them as the sheep and stuff. It's going to be a blast. Like I'm really pumped for this game too. But I'll make a full detailed um, game on this. We'll work on the art for this one. These are all placeholder. Like all these icons and stuff I just took offline from like free database. It's just to use temporarily while I'm waiting for the icons to get made. Because this isn't published anywhere. This is just on the private tabletop simulator that I host for my friends. Um, and then you can still say like this is from Warp Drive, so I even need that card made still, but it still just works here. But it's honestly like I had such a good week of creativity. Um, I was so proud and happy with last week, even though I know a lot of changes will get made once these games get play tested. But the amount of stuff that I got done was so awesome. Like I was kind of blown away with how much progress and everything that I did. The hardest thing for this game is making 30 of these action cards that are unique. None of them are the same. So there's 8 for the Dreamers, 8 that are half and half, and then there is 8 for the Nightmare for the sheep cards. So you can see here that there's perfect. So these anyone can use a Dreamer or a sheep. Only the sheep can use this, and then only a Dreamer can use this. So it's a pretty cool little system. I am genuinely excited to play all this stuff. So if you like anything you saw or have any questions, thoughts, anything, let me know in the comments below. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. Cheers.